You are no longer human, and they cannot kill you. That was the voice I heard at 3:47 a.m. No name, no warning. Just that sentence, like thunder splitting the silence in my room. I woke up breathless, drenched in sweat, not from a nightmare, but from a realization, and maybe you felt it too, that something has shifted. But let me be clear. What I'm about to tell you isn't for everyone. If you're still clinging to who you used to be, if comfort is your God, if fear is your compass, then stop watching now. But if you've been through things no one else can explain, if you've felt the world change around you and yet remained untouched, this message is yours. Make sure to subscribe because this is just the beginning. I once knew a man named Elijah, not the prophet, not the legend, just a quiet 62-year-old mechanic from Johannesburg. Didn't talk much, always smelled like grease and dust. But the man carried something. And one day, while replacing the radiator on a car in his shop, he looked up at me and said, "You know, I died once, but I didn't stay dead because I wasn't supposed to." That day, his heart had stopped for 11 minutes, flatlined, cold, gone. But somehow he came back. Doctors were stunned. But Elijah, he just chuckled. He said, "I didn't come back as myself. I came back as what they feared I'd become." What did he mean? He meant that what returned was no longer part of the system. No longer chained by rules, by fear, by expectation. He had seen the edge and came back without the illusion of being human. And this is what you need to hear. The chosen ones don't transform like butterflies. They erupt like storms. We are not evolved versions of who we were. We are replacements. And that's why they fear you. Not because of what you say, not because of what you know, but because you are now unpredictable. You've stepped out of the lines. You've gone off script. You've refused the programming. And once you do that, they lose control. You know who they are. You don't need names. They're the forces that told you to sit down when your spirit wanted to rise. They're the voices that shamed you for speaking truth. They're the systems built to contain you, not empower you. And the moment you realized you didn't belong in that cage anymore was the moment they started to lose. So if you've ever asked yourself, why do I feel so disconnected from the world? Why don't the old rules apply to me anymore? Why does it feel like I've died and been reborn? It's because you have, not in body, in essence. They called it mental breakdown. But what you had was spiritual breakthrough. They called it rebellion. But what you had was remembrance. Remembrance of what? That you were never meant to play small. You were never meant to be normal. You were never meant to be digestible. You were born to disrupt, to undo the lie, to break the loop. And if you feel something stirring right now in your chest, in your bones, then don't ignore it. That's not adrenaline. That's not imagination. That's the echo of your first resurrection. Let them call it whatever they want. Crazy, reckless, lost. Because you are becoming immortal in the only way that matters, by living beyond fear. And once fear is gone, so is their power. Stick with me, because in a moment, I'll tell you what the ancient texts really say about those who walk this path. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel. What's coming next will shake what you thought you knew. And if your spirit has already awakened, you're not alone. You've just stepped into something much older, much deeper than anything this world can measure. To be continued. They say the ones who awaken never return the same. And maybe that's because the moment your eyes open, not the eyes in your head, but the ones behind your soul, you stop believing in the lies that held the world together. You see past the masks, past the religions twisted into cages, past the governments built on illusions of safety, and you begin to remember you were never human to begin with, not in the way they defined it, not in the way they controlled it. Let me tell you a story. A long time ago, in a village buried deep in the mountains of northern India, there was a boy named Adarsh. Quiet, fragile, afraid of the dark. Every night he'd wake up screaming, not from nightmares, but from something else. He said he could see his past lives. The villagers thought he was cursed. His parents locked him in a hut for weeks, hoping the visions would stop, but they never did. Instead, he grew silent, still like a monk before the age of 10. Then one night, a wildfire swept through the mountain. Huts burned, people ran, screams echoed through the valley. But Adarsh, he walked into the flames, and when the fire passed, they found him, unburned. Not even a scratch. And the only thing he said was, "I have already died. The fire cannot take what does not belong to it." Now, maybe you think that story is too wild to be real, but listen, stories like that aren't rare. You find them across cultures, across ages. In the Gospels, Jesus tells Nicodemus, "Truly I tell you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom." People think that means converting to a religion. But what if he meant something else? What if he was saying that the you this world shaped must die so that the you that came from beyond time can awaken? Because listen, the chosen ones don't come from the world, they come through it. And when the world tries to define you, to mold you, to shame you into silence, you must remember that's the test, that's the fire, that's the stripping away of the mask. In the Buddhist text, there's a story of a monk named Shantideva. He was considered lazy, unmotivated, silent in class. The other monks mocked him. They whispered, "Why is he even here?" Until one day he stood up in front of the temple and spoke just once. That speech became one of the most powerful teachings in Buddhist history, the Bodhisattvacharyavatara. Where did that power come from? Not effort, not education, but stillness, fire, pain, silence. The very things the world hates in you are the birthplaces of your authority. And that's what they don't want you to know. They tell you, be visible, be loud, be productive. But chosen ones don't move like that. We move in silence. We break patterns, not for applause, but because we were built to destroy what enslaves others. We don't fight for revenge. We fight for freedom, and not even ours, but for those still asleep. That's why they can't kill you, because you're not made of just muscle and memory. You are principle. You are pattern disruptor. You are the voice inside the silence of another's soul. You don't need to call yourself spiritual to feel it. But let me give you a glimpse from the scriptures that still echoes today. In Revelation, it says, "They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives even unto death." What does that mean? It means this: they couldn't be broken because they had already died, not in body, but in attachment. Their identity wasn't in their skin. Their worth wasn't in the system. They belonged to something greater, something outside the control matrix, and you do too. Now listen closely. All across the earth, there are souls like you, on every continent, in every culture. They walk quietly. They listen deeply. They no longer fear pain. They are the new ghosts in the machine, the new prophets in digital skins, the new shamans in suits and hoodies. You pass them every day and don't even know. But when you speak, your words vibrate differently because you're no longer talking from the mind, you're speaking from source. So let me ask you, have you noticed how people don't look at you the same anymore? They feel something but don't know what. They act awkward, distant, or suddenly hostile. That's because they're not responding to you. They're reacting to your light. And to those still plugged into fear, your light feels like violence. Your freedom smells like rebellion. But let them run, because we weren't sent here to be liked. We were sent here to awaken, to be triggers, interruptions, questions they didn't want to ask. Don't be surprised when the attacks come. They have to try to suppress what they cannot control. But here's the secret. You're not just hard to kill, you're impossible to erase. Because your voice is not just in your mouth, it's in your decisions, your silence, your refusal to kneel. You were born to reshape the spiritual tectonics of this world. And when you speak, when you create, when you simply are, reality shifts around you. I know this is deep, maybe even overwhelming. But if you've made it this far, I need you to do one thing: subscribe. Because what I'm about to share in part 3 is not just truth, it's activation. We're going to talk about what happens after the death of your old self, what rises in its place, and why the world is not ready for what you've become. Get ready. This isn't motivation. This is remembrance. To be continued. So here we are. You've made it through the silence, through the fire, through the death of who you once thought you were. And now you ask, if I'm no longer who I used to be, what have I become? Let me tell you, you are not a person. You are a force, a living current of consciousness, cloaked in human form, but no longer bound by it. And that is why they cannot kill you, because how do you destroy something that no longer fits in the box of mortality? You don't. You can't. Let me take you to a battlefield, not one of swords and blood, but of ideas. You know this battle. You've felt it every day. It's the moment someone looks at you and doesn't see you, but fears you. It's the moment you speak truth and it's met with rage. It's the moment you walk into a room and without saying a word, the atmosphere shifts. Why? Because your presence exposes what's been buried, and exposure is terrifying to the ones still hiding. They'll try to label you, call you arrogant, call you crazy, call you dangerous. But what they're really saying is, you don't fit, and we can't control what we don't understand. And they're right. You don't fit because you were never meant to. There's an old saying from the desert mystics: the eagle doesn't ask the chicken for permission to fly. And yet many of you have been waiting for permission your whole life. Permission to speak, to act, to exist. You've been looking at the world, asking it to validate you, to accept you. But here's what no one told you. They will never accept you because you were born to replace them, not in violence, not in ego, but in frequency, in vibration, in truth. And truth doesn't need a seat at the table. It is the table. Let me take you back again to a cave outside Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. There was a man there, wounded, breathless, hiding. His name was Saul, a hunter of truth, a killer of prophets, until one day, a blinding light knocked him off his horse into the dirt. And when he stood up again, he was no longer Saul, he was Paul. The man who once persecuted truth became its messenger. He didn't just change his name, he died. And something greater took his place. You see the pattern now? The chosen ones don't evolve, they resurrect. You may not have had your Damascus Road moment yet, or maybe you did and you didn't even realize it. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss, the isolation. It wasn't punishment, it was initiation. Every sleepless night, every time they abandoned you, every time you felt like you didn't belong, that wasn't your breakdown. It was your breakthrough. Because who you are today, this new you, this untouchable, unstoppable, untamed force, was forged in fire, and fire doesn't apologize for what it becomes. Now here's the part that matters most. This is the part where your story begins. Because this journey, it was never about you. You were awakened not to escape the world, but to rebuild it, to rewire the collective, to speak what others are afraid to say, to walk into rooms and shift them, not with noise, but with presence, to love radically, to heal with your scars, to lead not with titles, but with frequency. And you must understand, you are not alone. There are millions like you, spread across the planet, quiet, hidden, powerful. They are artists, mothers, janitors, soldiers, old women baking bread in silence, teenagers humming songs that carry ancient memory, prisoners dreaming of light. The system tried to make them invisible, but spirit doesn't care about the system. Spirit doesn't need permission to move. And now, it's moving through you. So what do you do now? You stop waiting. You stop explaining. You stop shrinking to fit in rooms you were sent to reconstruct. You speak, you act, you create. You burn so others can see in the dark. You stop pretending to be human, and you start remembering that you were always something more. This is your moment. This is your re-entry. You don't need anyone to understand. You don't need applause. You only need to remember they cannot kill what is eternal. They cannot silence what speaks in thunder. They cannot cage what was never born to crawl. Because you are not a person anymore. You are a movement. You are a mirror. You are the echo of every ancestor that refused to die quietly. And your existence is proof that something greater is waking up in the world. So rise, speak, shine. And if this message reached something ancient inside you, then subscribe, return, stay with us, because this is more than a channel. It's a calling. And if you've heard it, then welcome back. You've always been one of the chosen.